10 disturbing true horror stories. Welcome to a collection of true stories that will send chills down your spine. These are not tales of fiction or urban legends, but real-life encounters that remind us how close danger can lurk in the everyday. From stalkers peering through windows to unsettling strangers in the night, these 10 disturbing true horror stories will make you lock your doors and trust your instincts. Let's begin. Story 1. The Peeping Tom Stalker. 3 years ago, in a quiet mountain town, a young woman and her boyfriend lived in a cozy half-basement apartment. The windows sat level with the ground outside, some too old to lock properly. One sunny afternoon, her boyfriend burst through the door, his face pale eyes darting to the window near the sofa where she lounged. "I think I just saw a guy looking in at you," he said, his voice tight with urgency. He checked every window, inside and out, but the stranger was gone. They brushed it off as a curious neighbor, the time of day OP, making it seem less sinister. But that was just the beginning. Over the next few months, strange things happened. Knocks on the door with no one there, unfamiliar objects appearing in the apartment, clothing vanishing without a trace. She tried to ignore it, but Hunase crept in. One night, around 1 a.m., she and her boyfriend were arguing in the kitchen, voices raised. The blinds on the open window behind him were half up. She glanced over his shoulder, expecting to see a reflection in the glass. Instead, a man's face stared back, pressed almost against the screen. His eyes locked on hers, unblinking, cold, and unnatural. The window's low position meant he was either lying on the ground or contorted to peer in. "Hello, can I help you?" she asked, her voice sharp, hoping it was a neighbor, but his expression didn't change. He just stared. Her heart sank as she buried her face in her boyfriend's chest, whispering, "There's someone at the window." By the time he turned, the man was gone. Fear took hold. She filed a police report, and her brother armed the apartment for protection. Her boyfriend and brother stayed vigilant, spotting a suspicious man near the windows more than once, always fleeing when approached. Then came the final straw. Alone one night, she sat on the couch, scrolling through Reddit. Her boyfriend was at work, 2 blocks away. The apartment was silent until a faint creak broke the stillness. Leaning to look, she saw the water heater closet door slowly opening. Her cat slept soundly nearby. It wasn't them. Fingers curled around the door's edge, easing it open with deliberate care. She fled barefoot into the snowy night, sprinting to her boyfriend's workplace. The police found no one in the apartment, but the message was clear. Someone had been inside. De Paqueta stayed with her parents and moved 1,000 miles away. 6 months later. But the story doesn't end there. Last week, in her new apartment, knocks came at her door. No package, no note, just persistent knocking. Then, 2 days ago, she returned from grocery shopping to find her deadbolt locked from the inside, a feed only possible from within. Nothing was stolen, nothing disturbed. Someone had been in her home, just because they could. Her new boyfriend installed cameras, and they're on high alert. But the chilling question remains: has the stalker followed her across the country? Story 2. The creepy cop encounter in Arizona. A teenage girl and her friend, buzzed from a night of party hopping, pulled into a Wendy's drive-thru at 2 a.m. They were underage, unaware of the status of curfew laws. As they waited for their food, tossing empty Smirnoff ice bottles aside, a text came in, a friend asking to meet at a nearby intersection to share the meal. The intersection was desolate, creepy office buildings and a dirt lot. They parked in the lot, waiting. A call from their friend came. "Is that you with the cops behind you?" Heart-pounding, the girl turned to see a police car. The officer approached, clearly suspicious of the rum bottle she tried to hide. He didn't buy her excuses but focused on the curfew violation, asking for her parents' number. She claimed they only had a silent cell phone, avoiding giving their home number. After issuing a citation, he insisted on following her home to ensure she got there safely. She drove carefully, praying her parents' cars in the closed garage would make the house look empty. At the front door, she unlocked it, expecting him to leave. Instead, he followed her inside, locking the door behind them. His tone shifted, making small talk, inspecting the living room. The air grew heavy. "Where's your bedroom?" he asked, his voice carrying an unsettling edge. Panicked, she led him to her parents' room and flicked on the light. Her parents, startled awake, stared at the armed officer behind their daughter. He sighed, whispering, "You lied to me, sweetheart," before reverting to professional mode, explaining the curfew violation. As he left, he pointed to the house phone, saying, "That's a nice house phone. Looks new and shiny." The implication was clear. He knew she'd lied. The girl never told anyone about his comments until now, haunted by what might have happened if her parents hadn't been home. The officer's behavior left a lingering dread, a reminder that even authority figures can cross lines. Story 3. Gut instinct about a killer at 6 or 7 years old. A little girl sat at her family's dinner table with her brother's friend, his mother, and her boyfriend. Something about the boyfriend felt wrong. He offered to play airplane, lifting her on his feet in a game that seemed innocent, but left her uneasy. She told her parents she didn't like him, and they seemed to agree. He never returned to their home. Weeks later, the boy's mother vanished. Her body was found, and the boyfriend was revealed as her killer. The girl's gut instinct, even at such a young age, had been right. That chilling realization stayed with her, a lesson to always trust the uneasy feeling some people give you. Story 4. Unsettling laughter in the woods. In 2015 or 2016, a couple camped in Mendocino, California. Surrounded by serene woods, a few sites away stood a tiny green tent, barely big enough for one person. No cooler, no chairs, no signs of life, just the tent, zip tight. After 10 p.m., laughter broke the silence. Not the warm chuckle of campers, but a steady, mechanical laugh, looping without pause. It wasn't an animal or a drunken outburst. It was too consistent, too unnatural. The couple tried to rationalize it as a radio or speaker, but it continued, relentless, through the night. By sunrise, the laughter still echoed. Terrified, they packed up and left without investigating. The thought of someone sitting in that tiny tent, playing a recorded laugh for hours in the dark, haunted them. Why would anyone do that? The answer remains a mystery. Story 5. The obsessive ex-boyfriend in high school. A sophomore boy, closeted and nervous, fell for a bisexual castmate, Mark, during a school play. After months of flirting, they started dating, keeping it secret from his conservative mother. But the relationship soured when Mark became demanding, jealous, and cruel. After 9 months, the boy broke it off via text. Mark's reaction was explosive daily texts, insults, and attempts to reconnect. At school, they shared 4 classes, and Mark's behavior escalated, staring, begging, and inserting himself into the boys' friend group. By October, his texts turned erratic, sent at 1 a.m., accusing and pleading. One night, the boy woke at 2 a.m. Cold. His window was open, his bedroom door ajar. Across the hall, his mother's door clicked shut, followed by a metallic sound like a gun cocking. He raced to her room, finding Mark crouched in the corner, clutching a cleaver, sobbing. His mother, calm, pointed a 10mm pistol at him. Reading Harry Potter with her toddler asleep nearby, she instructed her son to call the police. Mark was taken into custody, but faced no charges, as the family couldn't afford legal action. He moved to Arizona, but his lingering Snapchats to friends kept the boy on edge, a reminder of how obsession can turn dangerous. Story 6. The bike guy pursued at 15. A teen and her boyfriend, high and carefree, sneaked out to an elementary school field to The field offered a clear view of the illuminated school and basketball court, but a dark path led to a nearby townhouse complex. A state-oaked gravel crunched a man with a bike passed by, unnoticed. 10 minutes later, the crunch returned. The same man stopped at the field's edge, staring into the darkness. Uneasy, they packed to leave, heading down the pitch-black path to the townhouses. Paranoia gripped them as they checked behind, feeling something was wrong. At the complex's exit, the man stood with his bike, blocking their way. He dropped it and sprinted toward them. They ran, weaving through alleys, hiding behind bushes for 20 minutes until he was gone. His bike vanished from the entrance, leaving them to wonder where he went and if he'd return. Story 7. The Mentally Unstable Neighbor. In a new Texas home, a family found small pills and antidepressants and antipsychotics scattered in their backyard. Then came unopened water and Gatorade bottles, tossed over the fence. Thesaurs, a neighbor, Kay, living a few houses down, struggling with severe mental illness after her son's overdose death. Kay's behavior escalated. Yelling at construction workers, arguing with no one, and attempting to enter the family's backyard, believing her son was there. One night, neighbors spotted her staring at their fence at 3 a.m. The family learned her wealthy family had isolated her, and she'd stopped taking her medication. In January 2020, Kay brandished a BB gun during an argument, prompting a police response. Officers, informed of her history, de-escalated the situation. After months in a psychiatric hospital, Kay returned, stable and walking her dog daily, a hopeful end to a disturbing chapter. Story 8. The hazmat scam intrusion quarantining in rural California. A man answered a late-night knock to find 3 men in dirty hazmat suits, claiming to be a county disinfection team. Skeptical, he called a neighbor, who warned of a scam. When he asked for a warrant, the men vanished. An hour later, noises from his patio drew him to an open window. One of the men was tampering with his back door, while others pried at a window with a crowbar. Yelling that the cops were coming, he scared them off. Police confirmed the break-in attempt but dismissed fingerprinting, leaving him shaken by the audacity of the scam. Story 9. The porch prowler in a rough neighborhood. 5 college girls hosted friends on their porch until 2 a.m. The next morning, police knocked, reporting a man in his 40s or 50s peering through their windows the previous night. Whence said he'd grabbed a beer can, pretending to be a guest, describing the girls in chilling detail. A search revealed his history of sexual assault charges. The girls discovered their windows were unlocked, a vulnerability that could have led him inside. Grateful for the officer's intervention, they locked every window and stayed vigilant, haunted by the man's predatory gaze. Story 10. Violent attack in London. At 8, a girl visiting London trailed behind her parents on Oxford Street. Glancing into a cafe, she saw 2 women seemingly fall in slow motion, but it was hurled to the pavement by a homeless man who'd grabbed her collar. Her mother chased him down, disarming him with help from bystanders as he pulled a knife. The girl, in shock, felt little pain initially, but later suffered nightmares in therapy for a cracked rib and bruises. The man, a serial killer wanted for other attacks, was caught thanks to her mother's bravery, a chilling reminder of danger in the everyday. These stories remind us that horror isn't always supernatural, it's often human, lurking in the shadows of daily life. From stalkers to scams, from instinct to intervention. These encounters teach us to stay alert, lock our doors, and trust our gut. Sleep tight. If you can, these stories weave together themes of stalking, intrusion, mental instability, and the critical importance of trusting instincts and securing one's. Each tale underscores the vulnerability of everyday settings and the impact of quick thinking or fortunate timing.